When it comes to certain teams, there's always a name that immediately pops up, all-time greats cementing their brands with a franchise they've been associated with. There's no better definition to represent the San Antonio Spurs culture than the magnificent Tim Duncan, a consensus top 10 player all time. The most hyped rookie this decade will have extremely high expectations to follow, while the Chicago Bulls will forever be linked to Michael Jordan, Cleveland Cavaliers LeBron James, and the Miami Heat belongs to the beloved Dwayne Wade. It's almost near impossible for another great to be the faces of those teams going forward. With the heavy talent in today's game, a few young stars in several franchises, as long as they don't cry asking for a trade. With the combination of a good front office giving them the pieces to contend for years, it's up to these greats to maximize their full potential. Starting with the Atlanta Hawks, Trae Young, who's already accomplished something Dominique Wilkins couldn't do, already a conference finals under his belt, entering year 6, it'll take plenty of work to surpass the great Bob Pettit. 11 All-NBA teams, Trae only has one, now age 25, doesn't get his flowers enough, even snubbed for a few All-Star selections, made it twice, would need to make the All-Star team every year until age 34 to tie Pettit's 11. Bob 11 seasons with the franchise dating back to the Milwaukee Hawks before relocating to St. Louis, 4 finals appearance plus a 50-point closeout game 6 to 58 finals. Trae must lead Atlanta to a title to be even mentioned in the same breath as Pettit and at least win an MVP award. Many don't believe he has what it takes. Pettit already 2 of those. Many consider Bob the best power forward pre-90s, a name that gets overshadowed but still consider a top 35 player all time. Super unlikely Trae gets that good, would need to be CP3 Steve Nash-esque before even mentioning Pettit. Dominique Wilkins, monster numbers, 8 playoff berths, similar postseason stats. Trae will need at least 4 more full seasons, play more in the month of May to be in the discussion with Wilkins. Charlotte Hornets, Brandon Miller or LaMelo Ball, the most likely scenario, a dumpster fire of a franchise, several failed lottery picks in the top 5, Kemba Walker, best player Charlotte's ever had, 9th pick of the 2011 draft, wasted his best years with a struggling small market, just 2 playoff berths, both first round exits, 3 all-star teams from 2017 through 19, franchise all-time leading scorer, but a lackluster 245 and 360 overall record with Kemba playing. It's an absolute travesty. Walker more than likely not good enough to even make the Hall of Fame, while becoming the best player in team history. If LaMelo decides to stay for at least the next 7-8 years, he'll become the best player the organization's ever had. Way easier of an accomplishment than actually get past the first round. Already been an all-star by his 2nd season, hampered by injuries year 3, bad enough to land 2nd pick Brandon Miller, still an unknown but much to be determined, countless off-court distractions, young players getting in trouble off the court. Given the high ceiling of both Ball and Miller, a potential young duo to make noise come 2024, LaMelo not better than any of Walker's last 4 Charlotte seasons yet, but absolutely can get there. All he basically has to do, help Charlotte get past the first round. If a player like Trae Young was on Charlotte and helped the team make the conference finals just like he did with Atlanta, in a year or 2 would already surpass Walker as an NBA player. While Larry Johnson won Rookie of the Year, 2 All-Star selections in 5 seasons, didn't quite do enough. Whoever wants to be the GOAT of the Hornets franchise, 4 All-Star appearances, 2 All-NBA teams, and a 2nd round berth with the team alone, super doable. LaMelo Ball a huge chance to do that before the end of the decade. Dallas Mavericks, Dirk Nowitzki will always be the most beloved superstar, especially being loyal for all 21 years. True definition representing the franchise to the fullest. Luka Doncic only played 20% of the possible games Nowitzki's played, entering year 6, impressively just as many first teams All-NBAs as the big German, but as great as Doncic might be, needs to lead the franchise to a championship to be even mentioned in Dirk's category. Luka's clearly the more talented player. If healthy throughout his 20s and heading into his 30s, Doncic will be viewed the greater all-around player with his passing, running the offense, but Nowitzki's countless of incredible playoff moments, the spectacular 2011 title, leaves many in awe to this day. Doncic without a doubt more accomplished than Dirk's first 5 seasons in the league. Of course, the higher numbers in the modern NBA, Luka will have his triple-doubles, 40-point games, all the individual stats, but can he be as consistent year in and year out? Dirk, by age 26, first season without Nash, truly became a real MVP candidate on OK rosters, leading Dallas to multiple 60-win seasons. It will be up to the front office, a combination of good coaching with competitive playoff runs for Luka to remain long-term. Some might even say Luka a few years ago was better than Dirk ever was, but the entire body of work, being a true professional year in and year out, never lashing out on the organization, remaining patient when he could have taken his talents elsewhere before 2011. From Dallas being one of the worst franchises in the league to being one of the most successful between 2001 to 2011. Every season, the team won between 50 to 67 games during a time where Shaq and Kobe's Lakers dominated, along with Duncan's Spurs. Nowitzki's dedication to the city, his locker room presence, and importance to the organization makes him one of the most beloved figures for any individual sports teams. Luka will need 2 rings to fully surpass Dirk, 1 title of the Mavs given his high ceiling, while maintaining his level of play till age 32, will have the individual accolades to pass Nowitzki. Safe to bet on Doncic winning more than 1 MVP. In all reality, Luka might pass Dirk on the all-time player rankings before passing him as the greatest Maverick. Even 2 titles for Doncic, many in their hearts will forever consider Nowitzki the greatest Dallas Mavericks ever. Unless Luka somehow leads a dynasty, just like what Steph Curry built with Golden State, goes on to win 3 or more titles. Until then, everything has to operate correctly for the franchise with a bit of luck in the mix. Indiana Pacers, Tyrese Haliburton, many now would have taken him 2nd overall at the 2020 draft. 23 years old, obviously needs to remain a Pacer for at least a decade longer to be in any discussion with the great Reggie Miller. Numbers of over 20 points, 10 assists. Miller, similar to Dominique Wilkins, never won a title, didn't make top 50, but earned a spot in the top 75, one of the most polarizing players, only made 5 All-Star teams, 3 All-NBAs, not too difficult to surpass for any franchise star, but Miller's countless impeccable playoff performances, the game winners, clutch daggers, elevates his legacy, even capable of leading his team to the finals as a 34-year-old, being the best player. 15 total playoffs, Haliburton yet to make 1 a year and a half with the Pacers, still having ways to go to even pass the great Paul George and Jermaine O'Neal. Both played 8 and 7 seasons respectively, had better peaks than Reggie, but nowhere close to the body of work to be in the discussion for best Pacer. Tyrese needs to resign with Indy for 2 more long-term contracts to even be in the slightest mention. If he becomes a true MVP candidate, lead the team to several deep playoff runs, become as good as Steve Nash or Chris Paul, and win a ring playing 10 years with the Pacers, Haliburton in that scenario would be considered the Pacers' GOAT. But without a championship, while playing half as many games as Reggie in a Pacers uniform, Haliburton a slight chance to pass Miller, but all the right things have to fall in place. Memphis Grizzlies, Ja Morant, from most entertaining to hated, ranked 35th, dropped 26 spots, an absolute travesty. The most talented player to ever put on a Memphis uniform, Mark and Pau Gasol considered the best player since the franchise existed. Ja still far too young, a good trajectory with minor setbacks, got all the skills in the world, but needs the longevity and team value. Memphis already knows how to win games without him, needs to stay out of trouble. With proven star Triple J, the silent Desmond Bane, if anything, if Morant somehow doesn't get out of the troubling ways or goes to another team 3 years from now, Jackson Jr. with his upside could possibly still become Memphis' all-time best player, but still nowhere near as good as the Gasol brothers or as impactful as Zebo. Until Morant ever leads the franchise to the conference finals, the grit and grind era still the best time cherished by fans in the team's existence. With a better attitude, less off-court distractions, have the right people around him, Morant can leave his troubles behind. Minnesota Timberwolves, Anthony Edwards, still ways to go if he wants to be mentioned the same sentence as Kevin Garnett. The franchise failed the big ticket in his prime, conference finals appearance, an MVP award. Since then, a brutal 14-year playoff drought. The team finally looking decent last couple years, with Ant-Man now the clear-cut best player, having the killer instinct, performs bright in the playoffs unlike Karl Towns, showed the most confident for Team USA, fearless, has MVP potential, The best thing to happen to Minnesota since KG, 22 years young, made his first All-Star team year 3, his next leap heading to 2024, being named All-NBA most reasonable. A couple more years he'll surpass Cat and Kevin Love with ease. As long as Ant-Man remains on the team next 10 years, needs to have multiple first teams, win an MVP, be considered top 5 player in the league to be in the discussion with the big ticket, can surpass KG with a title of course. A slight chance he can do all that, too much remains to be seen. I give it a 50-50 shot. New Orleans Pelicans, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, can they surpass CP3 and Anthony Davis? If they stay a while, yes, but the problem continues to be injuries, lack of playing time, stunted growth, especially Zion, who's all social media hype dunking in practice, only to be sitting on the bench. An embarrassing first 4 seasons, used to be considered one of the top 5 most talked about players in the world back in 2019, but only been relevant for off-the-court headlines. At this point, BI likely won't ever be as close as impactful to 2018 AD or 2008 CP. The team's supposed to be on the rise, but fell off a bit after 2022. Ingram just played 45 games last season. Zion, the way higher ceiling, could still potentially be an MVP level player given all the talent, but the lack of discipline, highly concerning. If I was willing to bet, things won't go as planned. Another coming season of dysfunctional Zion likely means he's on his way out. Never wanted to be in New Orleans anyway, except for the food. Ingram, on the other hand, likely stuck as a top 40 player, perhaps could go top 20, but way too injury prone. Last time he didn't miss double-digit games in a season, his rookie year. OKC, SGA over Russell KD, a super high task, but given the direction of the Thunder franchise, if Sam Presti ain't cheap, the team in good hands. Made the play-in without a true center, now with Chet Holmgren back, SGA after putting up 31, 5, and 6, super efficient, now in true top 10 player discussion. No player has made a bigger leap last 12 months than the 25-year-old, given his trajectory, mastering his game, playing at his own pace. Next step, MVP contention with the young squad. Waited patiently on a bad team. If everything falls in place, SGA has a chance to either be the Curry or LeBron of the future generation, contend for championships on a great team for a solid decade stretch. If he remains on the roster at least 6 more years, make All-NBA first team several times, 7 total All-Stars, and deliver championships, Shea's prime might not be as good as 2012 to 2016 KD, but Durant couldn't capture that ring with the Thunder, giving SGA an opportunity to be the face of the Thunder organization. If he wins a title, would probably even get a statue before KD or Russ, but if things don't fall in place, a slight possibility, Shea might not even surpass Gary Payton, but the team's future only getting started. Orlando Magic, Pablo Banchero, Shaq and Dwight might have a better peak, but both didn't stay long. O'Neal just 4 years, Howard 8 seasons, 3 DPOY awards, 6 All-Stars, already a Hall of Fame career with Orlando alone. Banchero's ceiling being a top 10 player, a huge trajectory. Given all the physical tools, 6'10", fluid like a wing, combination of size, strength, and mobility. If Orlando don't mess up and keep the soon-to-be 21-year-old happy for the next decade, could possibly surpass Dwight, but given how impactful Prime Howard was, Pablo a good chance to be close to Howard's greatness, but still likely a notch below. Phoenix Suns, Devin Booker over Steve Nash. In a few years, Book will clearly be the best player the franchise had. Already heading to year 9, if the team wins his first title under Book, he'll clearly be the face of the Suns franchise. Went through all the hardships, from rock bottom in the standings, countless of failed lottery picks, to adding strong vet CP3. Booker's only getting better, excelling at winning ball. Nash's 2005 to 2012 peak, 16 points, nearly 11 assists, 51% shooting. Absurd efficiency, 6 All-Stars, 2 MVPs, 3 first teams, the engine to the offense. Booked this past season for the first time in real top 10 player discussions, while the great Charles Barkley had the best peak to put in the Phoenix uniform, but only 4 seasons with the franchise, including a finals berth. Book already been to the finals without a ring, needs 3 to 4 more superstar seasons to surpass Nash, but winning a title within the next 2 years, he'll already be the Suns' GOAT, will be on his way towards the latter part of this decade. San Antonio Spurs, if Wembanyama turns out to what many say he is, unfair to set expectations this high. Only a handful of players can match the greatness of Tim Duncan. Needs to become the game's very best player, win multiple titles, several MVPs to even be in the conversation. But if Victor turns out to become the second best Spur all time, that's still a super successful Hall of Fame accomplished career. It's like saying the 2030 first pick for Golden State will be better than Steph Curry. Near impossible expectations, we'll hold off on that. Toronto Raptors, Scottie Barnes or Pascal Siakam over Kyle Lowry? Obviously Kawhi Leonard, Vince Carter, Chris Bosh, and DeMar DeRozan, the very best peak players to put on a Raptors uniform, but all of them stayed a brief time. Leonard a 1-year rental, DeMar 9 seasons but too many playoff failures. Vince stopped trying after a while before demanding out. Bosh never got past the first round in Canada. Lowry 6 All-Stars in 9 seasons, a key part to the title team. Might not be a superstar, but his presence personified. Siakam a chance to pass Lowry, but already age 29, team stuck in no man's land. A name likely in coming trade rumors. Scottie Barnes not as good year 2, looking to bounce back. No longer viewed the transcendent star many hope to be. I don't see Pascal being a Raptor long term or Barnes eclipsing Lowry. Given the uncertainty of the franchise, nowhere close to being real contenders. Portland Trailblazers, Scoot Henderson, possibly better than Clyde Drexler, Bill Walton, and Dame Lillard. Unfair discussions, given he hasn't made his debut, I'ma give it a no for now. Which current young stars most likely to become their franchise future GOAT? Let me know in the comments below. Stay tuned. See y'all next time.